Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 8th episode of The Creative Insider. In this podcast, I have a conversation with Cinzia Capalbo. She is a landscape architect from Calabria, Italy, currently working in Switzerland, and she had a path from Rome to Berlin. I hope you will enjoy our conversation, and welcome to this new episode.
The whole world stops just like that. The whole world stops just like that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new episode where we're having an international guest, and it's the first episode online. We are recording with Cinzia Capalbo. So Cinzia, it's a person that I know from my university. She used to be kind of my teacher because she was the assistant of one of my professor. And she have had a very interesting path. So hello, Cinzia. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello. I am Cinzia Capalbo, and I am a landscape architect, an architect and also a landscape architect, and I would just say hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
So welcome. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm very, very glad that you accepted to join me on the podcast, and you are the early adopter on the online platform, which is kind of cool. So we can have this conversation. So where are you now? In Zurich?
Yeah, I'm living in Zurich, and and I'm working here also.
So, Cinzia, this podcast is about explaining to creatives and architects and designer that there are many, many opportunities. So let's start from the beginning. How did you decide that you want to be an architect or a landscape architect? So you're actually an architect, right?
Yeah. I am an architect, and really, I don't remember exactly the starting point, when I decided to be an architect. But I could say that I remember that from the beginning, I always wanted to be an architect. Yeah.
So, but did you decide it in a high school or?
I remember that when I was a really child, I had this big passion for architecture. I have always been attracted from creating spaces, for example, or for I always want a doll house, for example, and it's something that.
But is someone in your family is already an architect, or you're
No.
the first one?
No. I am the first one.
Cool, because for me, for example, I started because I thought, what can I do that doesn't require to have connections to find a job, but actually being able to do something practical. And I was good at drawing, and also as a kid, I was playing always with Lego and stuff like this. So this is how I got into architecture.
Yeah.
And so you was my assistant at the University La Sapienza in Rome. How did you decided to study in Rome? Because you're not from Rome, right?
Yeah, I came from the south of Italy, from Calabria. And I decided to study Rome because I was really in love with this city when I visited when I was, I think, 13. And of course, I was really in love with the architecture of Rome, no? And for this reason, I decided to study Rome. Yeah.
And at your time, there was an exception test, or how did you get into the university?
Yeah, it was an exception test, and I did, and I got in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
but I
the
think
same
that
way.
also when you started, no?
I had to pass this test, but there are. I think it's the second in Italy after medicine. That's the hardest to get in.
Yeah.
And how was your student life? How How was the? Was it challenging to move from Calabria to Rome? About finding a place. How was your student life? How did you find it?
Yeah, I could say that my student life was a great period of my life because Rome in that period was really a beautiful and interesting and also international city. And I spend my time between studying and getting to know the architecture and the spaces of Rome, of course. And also was really a great period because I had the chance to meet people from different areas of Italy and of course from different areas of the world, you know. And this was really really important, you know,
Yeah,
for my
that's also interesting because also now with the Erasmus program, there are also the people that coming from abroad. Did you take part of one of those programs or you didn't?
no. I never I never did this. I never took part in this program like Erasmus on the yeah.
And so which because in Rome there are like people that are from abroad, they don't know it. So I'm going to explain briefly how it works. There are two in Italy in general. There are two kinds of architectural studies. There is the master, like bachelor and master, like all around the world, where you study 3 years first and then 2 years in your specialization, which is your master. And then there is this 5 years master program, so you just don't make a thesis in between, you just keep going and you're an architect. So which one did you do, the 5 years, right?
Yeah, the 5 years, right. Yeah.
And that was normal architecture, not landscape. And then how did you transition into landscape? What made you be interested in building, like I guess public spaces more than uh, buildings, right?
Okay. Yeah. I think that was during the period of my degree thesis, and I noted that I was that my interest was not anymore focused on the building, but also was more focused on the surrounding areas. No. Was focused on the public open space, no, and and the starting point of my interest in landscape architecture was in that period, I think. And my first question was how the project could improve the socialization process, how the project could bring people together, no? And how could the project could improve the life between building, you know, using a sentence of the architect Young Gell, no? And this, I think, that was the starting point. And after that, I could improve this interest during my PhD studies because my PhD was in landscape and environment. And also during the period I have worked as a professor assistant at University Sapienza, no? The period that I think that you talked about this period, no?
Yes,
Uh, uh,
I have a couple of questions here now,
yeah.
because I didn't took part of any PhD program. So how do you get into a PhD program? Do you need what are the requirements? You have again a test, or you need to have a certain grade from your degree? How do you do that?
Yeah, I did a test and I passed it. And the position for in a PhD are not many. I remember that when I did the test, we were I think in 60. We were 60 person, and just 10 person could take part, you know, in this program of studies. And yeah, of course it's and to of course to get in this program of studies, I studied for 2 years, you know.
And do you
Yeah.
get paid as a PhD or?
Yeah, I got paid. There are, for example, for the first six position, the people that got the first six position, they got paid like me, for example, and the rest of the person not. It was just. They had the possibility to studies to have the high level of studies in for Italy, but I think also in the rest of the world, but they didn't get paid.
Yeah,
Paid.
and what is the advantage of having a PhD? Because you have these 2 extra years where you improve this certain area of design in your skills, let's say, and
Yeah.
and what do you, because you have to do a sort of a research, right? You're writing a paper during this PhD. What is the end goal? Because in the normal course of studies you just get your degree, and that's what makes you being able to become an architect actually.
Yeah.
And then the PhD, what is the goal of your paper? To find something new or to
Yeah,
get deeper in?
yeah. Of course, the PhD is the starting point of the academic life, and of course you have to make research, innovative research, of course. And for example. The topic of my PhD thesis was about how we can about the project of the public open space in the city in an urban context through a landscape approach. Was this the topic? And yeah, and
what
I
what is
wrote.
what is a landscape approach? So what are the like yeah, because
Yeah,
a lot of people are confused about, because architecture, it's a very particular field of design,
hmm,
because when you build a building, of course you're building it from the people who gonna use it, but you're also building it for the people who are walking around, because everybody gonna see the building. So it's like you're building this a room for people to live in, but you're also making you're changing the urban space. So if you make an ugly building, uh it's bad for everybody basically. And then the landscape, it's a very very interesting design field, because you're building, as you said, the life between the buildings.
yeah.
So what are maybe the elements of design, what you take care of, how do you approach the design? So if you can tell
Oh,
something more about that in,
okay.
yeah.
I understood what you mean, but there are many way to could answer to this question. But what I could say is that the landscape architect. The approach of the landscape architect is more about, of course, the use of the natural element. No, the tools of the landscape architecture are the natural elements. No, and this is a big difference because this is a big difference between the approach of an architect of a landscape architect, no, in the project of course of urban spaces. And yeah, and this and regarding my own approach to the project, I I think that the important thing for me is make plays that are really linked and connected with people. I mean, a space that are really atmospheric. No. Yeah, for me it's really important the question about atmosphere, the atmospheric space, and
What are simple tools that can because of course you're saying that if you use a lot of sorry, um, natural elements, which
yeah,
are plants, trees,
yeah,
um,
water, wind,
water.
yeah.
Oh, also wind. So how do you, that's interesting. How do you use wind?
because of course the wind move the leaves, for example, no, and the movement of the leaves is different, no, and is connected with the different kind of trees, no, that we have in a space, no, and these make possible have a different atmosphere, no, in a
But
space, no, yeah.
so when you but of course, because you need to link, you said you want to create a link between the space and the users that are
And the users
gonna.
and the people, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, Cinzia is very good in German, by the way.
Yeah.
She knows Swiss German, which nobody understands a part of the
Yeah,
Swiss.
yeah, it's true.
Um,
I'm so sorry for genau.
no, 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 no. You don't have to be sorry. I'm very happy that you accepted to join the podcast, because a lot of people are telling me, no, I don't want to speak English because my English is not so good.
Yeah.
And I said, this is a podcast that's about being authentic. It's also, I think, accents give a flavor to the language, and now people are talking about not English but Globish, because it's like about everybody talks English in a different way. So don't worry about that. It's very. I think it's just very interesting to get to know more about landscape architecture, and to let also other people understand better. Because when you're an architect or a landscape architect, you get into kind of analyzing the space where you are, even if you don't want, because it's just your profession. So you start taking care about the different elements you have in a space, and the rest of the people just don't understand it. So I just think it's interesting to give some information for the rest of the people also. And so what I wanted to tell you is, because as you mentioned Jan Gehl in the beginning,
Yeah.
which is a Danish architect, landscape architect, and I like him a lot too. So for the people who don't know him, they can Google him, and there are a lot of information about him. And what he says, or what he takes care of, it's the analysis of not only of the space but also of the people, because as you said, you connect people and space. So in your work, do you have a lot of analysis work, or how do you get the information to make a more uh, a better design that's more conscious, let's say?
Yeah, of course, visiting the site. This is okay. It's ever important when you start a new project, but I think that in the landscape architecture is really, really important, no? Because you work with the physical element that are on the site, no, that are still there, no. This is, I think that maybe we can say that is a is something that belongs really to the landscape architecture, no? The analysis of the site and yeah, it's really something. It's a big part of this job, no? And we spend,
And
for example, when we started a new project. Here we spend a lot of time, usually just visiting the site, analyzing the physical element, no, the trees, the weather, the light, and yeah,
and
yeah,
how do you and do you also analyze the population? Because I guess that also let's make, because you're also having this international life, so you live in Switzerland, but if you were in Calabria, let's say, and Switzerland, people interact in a different way with the public space. So do
yeah,
you
yeah,
have
of course, the
also?
cultural layer is really important. No, it's also important, and yeah, we started this. Yeah, yeah, of course, we started also with analysis of the uses. No, we call this, yeah,
And
of
so
the uses of the users. No, is that, and this is something that. In the job and in the theoretical work of Yangel is it's explained in a really good way, no?
Yeah, also, yeah, the psychology of a person, because he explains all
Yeah.
the, for example, how we interact, why we want to stay in a corner rather than in the middle of a square. And um and you said that you need to use natural elements, which yeah, I'm asking you a lot of
I
questions
could
because
uh,
yeah.
I could just say something about young girl that I think that the most important lesson that I got from young girl is that the sociality is a process. No, people do something in the space when other people start to do something. You know?
Yeah,
And this
true.
this means that it's a process, no? And this I think that is something that it's really important in this project. We have because I think that the project is a strong device to make possible to start a process of to make possible to bring people together, no? To start
Yeah,
this process. Yeah.
I see landscape architecture and the landscape in general in the city or in a park. It looks like a invisible power that you don't notice,
Yeah.
and you don't know why you do things like you do. And for example, this is something I've noticed from by reading the book of Yangel, is that the book is called Livable Cities. So
Mhm.
when you read that book, after that you can say, okay, I like, why do I like to go in this city, because this city is small, it's on a human scale, it feels
Yeah.
cozy, there are a lot of people walking around, there are a lot of people sitting around. It's the same thing that everybody can understand. For example, when you go in a mall, in a shopping center, and there are those shops which are eh, too empty, there is nobody inside, and you don't get inside because you think, if there is nobody inside, maybe it's too expensive, maybe, and you don't feel like going in and being the only person. So it's interesting. But back to your work. So for example, I'll ask you maybe a very stupid question, like as someone that I've told you, we had a call a few days ago, that I'm very fascinated by landscape architecture because I don't know much about it myself. So for example, if you want to pick up a tree, like a kind of tree for your project, a part of course of the climate in the city where you gonna plant the tree, how do you decide what changes if you pick up a big tree, a small tree? For example, if there is a simple way to explain this.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's a big question in some way, but I think that is all the time is really connected with the kind of a project, you know, and the kind of atmosphere that you want to have in a project, you know, and this is really connected with the concept that is behind a project. No, I think that I came from Italy. I studied in Italy, and in Italy, this theoretical approach, to the project is really important. And for me, it's for this reason, I think. But for me, it's really important to have a strong concept behind every new project. No, and this is something that show you the way to resolve many questions, many problems also that you will have during the project process in some way. And yeah, and I think that
Oh,
also choosing, trees is something that is really connected with the big idea that is behind this project. And of course, as you said before, it's also something that is really connected with the different uh, kind of weather and yeah, ecological element, no?
yeah. So yeah, that's a very helpful answer, because for example, I can make an example because I know about architecture. When you're building architecture in your building, for example, for the people who don't know, if you're for example building palace of justice in a country, you make for example, usually the older building look huge, you look massive to show you that justice has a weight. Or for example, if we take the Berlin Parliament building, they use a lot of glass to give you this concept of transparency, so the people can access the government. So this is kind of ideas that you could put behind the design of a building. But for example, what kind of concept you can have for a public square? Like maybe they will. How do you? I in myself, I think, for example, maybe you can have spaces where you want people to stay and spaces where you want people just to go. Or what could be a core idea of a project, even if it's a project that you have already done? For example, explain, if you can explain uh, also with an example, like you have this project and you have this core idea, and how you follow this core idea.
Yeah. Uh, for example, I could I can do okay in a project I worked on. For example, the main idea was this because okay, in Switzerland the topic of the topography is really important, you know, because we don't have places that are flat, you know, more or less, and we had this courtyard, and the topography of this courtyard was really important, where there were a difference of height of I think 3 meters, and yeah, we worked, but this element is of course something that you can we can find also in the surrounding landscape, and in the surrounding landscape was characterized by this like insel, like island, no, of trees in some way, and we decided to put inside this something that was connected with the big scale in the small scale of this courtyard, no? And this courtyard was characterized by this small insulin, a small island created with the different trees inside, and this island were really something that you could not, no, that you could not in this topography. It's really strange. Explain
No, but
something.
I understand it's sort of like creating a mini world inside this courtyard where you have this
Yeah,
element
yeah,
that
and
it's
some, yeah,
more.
it's something that it's really connected with the surrounding landscape, no, and something that we put inside a micro scale, no, in a small scale of the courtyard. But and the idea of designs and islands were really strong, because the you really could, because I did also a model about in this project, and in this topography you could note this element, not this strong element, and this was the main idea, and we ever followed, you know, this main yeah, this main idea. And for this I think that this is really important to have something like this. And
And
these different islands were like a kind of a microcosm, a small world, totally different from the surrounding space. And yeah, I think that
no,
was a nice project.
and then, but did it was it realized? Was it built up already, or
No, is yeah, we are on the way.
you're on the way?
Yeah.
Well, maybe then when it's ready, you can come back on the podcast and share more about the project, and then well, I can share it on the social media so people will see what was because the podcast is just audio, it's not visual, so it will be
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah,
A- and yeah, you were at the University of Rome, and then you did the PhD, and then I moved to Frankfurt, where I'm still living, and I lost track a little bit of you, but I remembered and at some point you were in Berlin. So how did you end up from Rome to Berlin and then from Switzerland?
Yeah. When I got my PhD, I decided. I think now are three years ago. I think, yeah, and I decided to leave Italy and just to know different city, and I think that I have ever loved Berlin. The idea of this city really open mind city, and I moved there and I lived in Berlin for 6 months, I think, and this period was really I enjoyed, really was really a great period of my life. And in these 6 months I just studied the parks of Berlin, because in Berlin there are many projects that are really pioneering project, in some way. Like, for example, Tempelhofer Park or Gleisdreieck Park, but many projects, and yeah, it was really I was all the time around the city and taking photo, making a sketch, and no, it was really a nice period, also because I had the possibility to meet important artists that are really connected, artists that work with the nature, no? And for example, I had the possibility to meet Lois Weinberger. Lois Weinberger, that I think that is really is an artist really important about the relationship between people and the nature, and he is he worked a lot on Berlin, and he worked a lot in the space of rural nature in Berlin. He worked a lot on. I don't know if you. Yeah.
I don't know him, but is he German?
Is from Österreich.
From Austria. Okay.
Yeah, from Austria. Yeah.
But was he because I remember at certain point in Austria, maybe that's him that did this. They put in the middle of a football stadium. I think trees. I don't remember if it was just in the middle. They filled a football of a soccer field with trees to kind of give importance to the trees. Maybe that was him. I don't know.
No, it's not. I know this project, but it's not by Lois Weinberger. But I know the temporary forest. No, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of this interesting landscape project where, for example, you take the natural element and you put it in a place where it's not supposed to be, and then and I wanted to ask you, did you also get into the professional field while in Berlin, or?
No, in Berlin not, because when after 6 months I was in Berlin, I started to look for a job, and I got this job in Switzerland after, I think, 20 days. Yeah, it was really, yeah. And I came here for this for this working interview, and I remember that I was really in love with this place, and I told to myself, okay, it could be nice start a new experience, no? And also could be really nice work in the land. For example, in the country of a great landscape architect like Dieter Kienast, no? Because here an important Swiss landscape architect was Dieter Kienast, and I studied him during my PhD studies, and I was really interested in his job, in his work, and yeah, I think that this country is really a good country for landscape architecture. Yeah.
And was him the, for example, which were your favorite figures or idols while studying landscape architecture? Because when you study an architect or a designer through his books, you kind of have this a relationship with that person, because you have this dialogue, which is you get to learn for about your favorite figures, and they influence you and influence your work. So was there a figure in the landscape architecture that, or there is a figure in the landscape architecture that you really admire, or that you take inspiration from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe I think that it's not just landscape architect that was really important for me, but I think um, uh, I think that for me it was really important the approach of for example, of the of the approach, for example, of some that the landscape architects had in some project, like for example, Greisdreck Park, no, or something Temple of like a Temple of Park, no, in Berlin, because I think that this kind of a project in Berlin have something of special, no? And they worked a lot. This is, I think, that the approach of the project in in Berlin, and they took care about the existing situation, and they work a lot with the existing situation. But for existing situation, I don't mean just the history of the place and the cultural values of the place, but I mean the physical element of the place. For example, in Gleisdreck Park, there are part of rural areas that they just left in the project, no? Or, for example, a Temple of Park, they just opened this space that was an airport before, and the project is just really the existing situation, no? And this element, I think that for me it's really important because I think that this way could connect us with really with uh, the site, no, with the place, and also it's not something. It's something about. Um, it's something about it's something that you have respect for the atmosphere that is in the place, no, it's not just that you start from a tabula rasa the project, but you can work with the existing element
Yeah,
just with, yeah,
you have always this dialogue with the city that's already there, because
yeah,
as long as you're not building something in between of nowhere, you have always someone that was before you there, and some surroundings. um, I wanted to ask you, because you studied the parks in Berlin, and you as a PhD graduate, you have a lot of theoretical knowledge, and you have a lot of knowledge about different projects. I wanted to ask you, if now you're in the professional field, what would be for you your dream assignment? Like, what would you very like your dream project would you like to do, or is a dream project that you would like to do?
um,
I
this
don't
is
know if they tell you. I don't know if you want to say do the newest park of Zurich or another city, or
uh,
something you would like to do.
yeah, maybe is this, no, that a project where I can really work with the existing material that are in the place, no, because this is usually is not so common. No, for example, in Berlin we have this element, this park, like also another park, for example, that is just they worked with the existing situation because this wood is just an existing wood. Is Natur Park Schonenberger, for example. And maybe what I would like to do is just this, no? Have the chance to make a project where I could really work with the existing element, no? And yeah, with the rural vegetation and yeah, something like this.
And
And yeah.
is there a city or a place where you would like to have this dream project? For example, let's say, I don't know, contribute to the city where you're currently, or maybe I don't know, if you had the chance to do something back in your hometown. Yeah, is there an ideal place where you want to work with the existing, with the past of the place?
Yeah, I think that Zurich could be a good place where realize this project, but also maybe my dream is also try to improve this topic, the topic of landscape architecture, also in the land I came from, no, in Calabria, because it's in the south of Italy, no, also because it's not common, no. This
Yeah, that's
topic,
true.
no, and this could be really because here maybe it's easier, no, because there is a culture about the landscape architecture, no, everybody know what is the landscape architecture that is important, and
And I think in south of Italy in general, there are so many opportunities because there are also, for example, these historical sites where you can work also with the ruins, so for example, of old temples and old historical sites. Or yeah, I think it could be an interesting.
yeah, could be really interesting, and also the agricultural landscape is really interesting in the south of Italy, no. And I think that there is a lot to do, no. And but we have to change. Maybe it could be really. Maybe my dream is this, no. Try to change the point of view, no, about the landscape in my country, no. And in my country, I mean in my land, in Calabria, for example, no? And this could be, there are also in Calabria many landscape architects that are really good, make really good project, but it's not something that is common, no? Like here, for example, no? And improve improve this the culture of the landscape architecture in my land could be really, maybe this is my my dream now.
And now if because also, yeah, we're architects, we are creative people, but uh, let's say life, it's more than just this. How was for you culturally to move from Italy to Germany and then Switzerland? Because for example, I'm half Italian. I grew up in Italy, but I'm also Bulgarian, so I was kind of used to these different cultures. And when I came to Germany, I had a little bit of culture shock because Europe is this place where you just fly one hour away from your town, and then there are completely different
No, of course.
people and landscape. So was it hard to get into the culture, also in the working culture, because the way Italians approach work for sure is different than Swiss or German people do.
Yeah, of course. No, I have to be honest. In Berlin was really. I had really a great experience, and it was really easy for me going the Berlin culture in some way. No, the people. Berlin is really a magic city, I think, because it's really you can find people. That comes from really from other part of the world is really international, and yeah, I felt like I was at home, no? And but I like this.
And how is Switzerland?
German.
Because I guess that Berlin, for what I know, it's this very open-minded
Yeah,
hipster city with
absolutely.
mixed cultures from everywhere. But I've been to Berlin, but I've never been to Zurich. And when I think about Zurich, I think about this very clean Swiss city. Very, I don't know how is living in there.
Yeah, but yeah, of course, the scale is totally different because Zurich is the context is different, and also the scale because Zurich is a small city, no? Is the biggest of Switzerland, but is small because the cities in Switzerland are small, no? But
What does it mean small? How many people are
for
living there?
for I don't know precisely, but
Yeah,
for I think that for
400,000.
yeah, could be. Yeah, yeah, could be. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
because
really.
also for example, when I was moving to Frankfurt, because there are so many flights to Frankfurt, I thought Frankfurt is big, but Frankfurt also it's not. It's very small because it's a very high city,
Mhm.
and the buildings are high, and it's around 700,000 people here, not more.
Ah,
And
so
yeah, so it's
I thought that
I
it was
was
bigger.
yeah, see, a lot of people think that, and because also has this skyline. It's called, and
Yeah,
because it's out at the River Main, they call it Mainhatten.
it's like a
So
big
it's
apple.
yes, it's like a small apple. uh, um, and how is because as a landscape architect, and for example, in all my projects, we have this also we have landscape architects. What how is the relationship with? Is it hard to work with architects that are designing the buildings, or do you have a common conversation? How is it to co-work
Yeah.
with
Of course, I work every day with the architects because yeah, usually I do project with architects, no, and because the work of the landscape architect in Switzerland is just making the space surrounding the building. No, there are not a lot of parks or a lot of square. No, project of parks. I mean, project of squares. Usually, you work with the surrounding area of the building, and this means that you have to work every day with the architects. No, this is a big topic of this job in Switzerland, and of course.
And so they do the, for example, they have a concept for their building, and then in this case you work the existing that you have to work with. It's actually their project, so you need to integrate
Yeah.
your concept to theirs.
Yeah, yeah, of course, you have to find a dialogue with the architecture, no. But of course, you have to put in also the element of the landscape architecture, no. And this I think that is really interesting. Interesting. For me, it's interesting. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's interesting for me because I am also an architect, you know. And I don't know, but I think that I usually I find this really interesting.
and
And yeah,
um, and how is you're working within an international, do you have international colleagues, a lot of how is your working environment? Is it more Swiss people, German people, or everywhere?
nice. Mixed mixed office because there are okay. I am Italian, and I have colleagues from Germany, colleagues from Poland, from Czech Republic, for example, and of course from Switzerland. Yeah.
And do you think that there is a different approach between the different backgrounds? And is there something that you have learned from your colleagues? Let's say, for example, that I don't know, maybe the Polish architects approach problems in a different way. So they give you some different perspective that you find interesting, or
Yeah.
how
What I noted is that sorry. What I noted is that the Italian approach is more theoretical, and is we need to have this starting point that is find a job, find sorry, find a concept, and what I could say that this is really important for Italian designer, no, and uh, and maybe what I learned from my colleagues from also from Switzerland, but from Germany also is more also an a more practical approach. No, I think that I learned this. No, because we have. I think that. I don't know, but we have also because I got a PhD. With I came from a theoretical, a
So yeah, for
theoretical,
example, for me was the same. Just to explain, like theoretical, you mean, for example, uh, in Italy when you're at the university or when you're learning how to design, we take care of this core idea of this concept. We design the building and the landscape without thinking too much about how you gonna make it look like this way or how you're gonna build it, because we always say there is a way. There is always a way. And I think in Germany it's the other way around. People think how I build this, and then they start from the technical
it's
part of the
also
project.
important for them, of course, the theoretical approach, have a concept. But I think that this is I can say this just in my experience, not about my experience. But for Italian people, I think for me is more important, find a concept, and because it's something that help you every time,
And
help you in the whole process at last, because also when you asked me before, what about the trees, how you choose the trees for a project, everything is connected with this main idea, no.
yeah, of course.
Other, no, it's everything is connected with this. I think it's really important because, for example, if you choose something just for ecological layer, no, you could choose more kind of trees, no, but at last you have to choose some kind of trees, and you can choose this just because you have a main idea in your head, no, in your brain, and
Yeah,
yeah,
like this driving idea,
yeah,
this core
yeah,
idea that you
yeah,
need
yeah.
to follow.
It's perfect,
And
no? It's something that
yes,
help you during the whole process, no, of the project.
and the recent years, there is always this growing discussion about women, let's say, and how this is more next to not really about landscape, but about a woman as an architect. Because, for example, last year in Frankfurt, here we have the Museum of Architecture, the German Museum of Architecture. So they have created this series of dialogues, and they had this exposition in the museum about women in architecture. So, how is the field of landscape architecture? Is there, for example, are there many other women in the field, or are there more men? And yeah, how is the situation?
Um, I I think that in the landscape architecture there are many women that are making this job, and also, for example, many important landscape architects are women. For example, I think at the beginning, I would say, for example, in my office, um, 6 of my 10 colleagues are women. No, just and but it's we have a lot of landscape of woman landscape architect. For example, Catherine Gustafsson, no, and yeah.
And for example, do you think it's what are, for example, if somebody, because the idea is also now to give some tips and advices to the people who are approaching the different field of creativity. So um, what do you think it's important to get into the landscape architecture, for example, when you to have, for example, a big portfolio, or what would you say to somebody that wants to become to find a job in this field? So for example, why do you think you were, because you said you looked for a couple of months for a job or something, and then you found it. So do you know what was so much impressive? How did you manage to win the your employers, let's say?
No. Uh,
So having this, for example, having this theoretical approach that other people maybe don't have, or yeah, what was your strong, your strength, your strong point?
No, of course, I think this. I knew, of course, that my education was more theoretical, and I tried to put to show it in my portfolio this approach. No, but I was really also during. The working interview, no, I ever said, okay, this is I am this, no, I am theoretical. For me, it's really important to find a concept before thing make a research before starting with a new project, no, this is really something that is important for me. And of course, the people that at last got me, no, they agree with me, and of course, and I think that was the main topic of my portfolio, and yeah, I could say this.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting. I think it's a very interesting story you have. So we are about to hit the hour conversation. If you, as I said to you in the beginning, this is I'm trying to create a platform for creatives to have the chance to tell their stories, and to promote themselves too. If people were interested in getting in touch with you, where can they find you on internet?
On internet, I have a Facebook profile, Instagram, and yeah,
LinkedIn too?
yeah, also.
Okay, then I'll add those links in the description of the episode. So if people, you are interested to see more from the contents that Cinzia have, or get in touch with her, you will be finding the links in the description of the episode. And I'll suggest you to follow her, because she have these very interesting pictures she takes, where she really puts in focus aspects of the landscape that are not so obvious, let's say. Okay, Cinzia. So thank you very much again
Thank you.
for joining me in the conversation.
Thank
It's a very interesting. It was a very interesting conversation,
you.
and yeah, when in the future, as I said, you're always welcome, and maybe sometimes in the future we can make an episode where we show more also the end result of your projects.
Yeah, of course. I hope so, and I would say thank you for this invitation. It was really interesting for me, and it's really interesting also. Yeah, have again contact with you because, as you said at the beginning, I was like I was a assistant professor when you were studying a student at Sapienza, and yeah, it was really I remember about you. I have a good okay
Memory.
memory. Yeah, yeah, a good memory about you. No? So
No, no, yeah, but I have a good memory about you because I was telling to you that I remember you, but I don't remember any of the other assistants we had in that class, and I don't remember even the name. I didn't remember even the name of the professor. So
yeah, and yeah, I was. I remember also your project.
oh, you remember my project? Yeah, I wish I had done it in a better way, but
Yeah, yeah, I remember. It was yeah, was good. I remember the skin of this building, and also yeah, that was really connected also with the idea of this open space, you know. And yeah,
yeah, I think the concept was good, but of course, when you are in the beginning of a new activity, you cannot execute your ideas so well as you like.
uh,
So if I were doing this project today, I maybe would do it with the same core idea what we were talking about,
yeah,
but with a better
yeah, of
execution.
course, of course. Was it beginning, you know, of your
Yeah,
studies?
my second year, my second project. So yeah, the beginning.
Really, you were really a beginner, no?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But no, this is. But I remember that we spent a lot of time about in the concept, not to figure out a concept in the project.
yeah,
But I think that it's important to spend a lot of time during the university because after you have during the professional career you need to find a concept in one day.
yeah. True, true. And but I think that that
Just if you know if you spend a lot of time before, no.
yes, yes. But I think that in the beginning, for me, for example, I had a little bit of difficulties to, because sometimes even this language of explaining architecture in Italy, it's highly academical and theoretical. So I had difficulties to understand back then what the different things you and the other assistants were saying actually meant. And I remember that we started together my project, but then there were too many people in the class, and I got assigned to another assistant. I was like thinking like, oh no, why I'm moving to another assistant. I was feeling safe with you, but and then they moved me to this other assistant. I was like, oh no, great, now I need to start over. But it was fine. I think being an assistant, the assistants are very important figures in the university, maybe more than the professor, because you all have this role of connecting the professor and the student. You have this in between role.
Yeah, of course, because usually an assistant follow not a lot of students, no, and this means that you have a really a close connection now with the students, and
uh,
yeah.
and did that time by teaching to the students, um, did that experience help you to learn more, or because for example, I noticed that sometimes also did the ideas of the students sometimes surprise you, because also when you're a beginner, when you experience, you have this whole background you have in your head, like you know all this knowledge, so that influences your design. But when you're young and not experienced, you have sometimes these maybe weird ideas, but they're interesting. So did that experience back then sometimes give you original ideas or help you learn yourself better what you already know? How was that?
Yeah, I think that the experience that I had with the students in that period was helped me a lot also in my also now in that period, no, because of course you get a different point of view, no, because of course you have students that are at beginning of this of architecture studies, but are person that have they starting to have an idea of architecture, no, of the space, and of course have a different point of view, no, and this is have a contact with this different situation. I think that is really important for people, and of course I learned a lot, no, during
But
these
but
years.
for example, I have never told people about architecture, but for example, I started this podcast, and in the first episodes I was trying to create some these small 15-20 minutes lessons about the topic.
Hmm.
And you think you know that topic because you have it all in your head and you think it's all logic. But when you start writing down the episode for 20 minutes, you learn so much more just because you need to connect all the ideas and all the dots. So did was it the same thing for you when you needed
Um,
to teach the students about?
Yeah, of course, because you have to explain something that you have in your head, of course, but you have to figure out a way. You have to focus, no, on a topic, and yeah, these are pure because sometimes you think that you know what you have to say, but it's not true, you know, and it's just an idea, no, and in this way you can. Yeah, really, also when for example you I did some small speech, no, at university. These helped me a lot not to focus the topic, no, and yeah, and also the relationship with the students was like a training, you know, for me, also for
Yeah.
my also for my PhD speech, no, because after in different conference or also in intern speech during my PhD life, you have to focus really on specific topic, no, and the relationship with the students help you in this, of course, because you,
Yeah.
yeah, because you have a person in front of you, and and you have to make possible that this person understand what you, you are saying, no? And at the beginning you could say something obvious, no, but it isn't, no, obvious, no, you have
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. This is why this is also the idea of the podcast. That, for example, it's really to give voice to people like you, to because a lot of people underestimate themselves, think, oh, my story is not so special. But everyone that are in the field of creativity, even if it's architecture or some other form of design, landscape architecture, I think everybody have this passion, this drive, and it's very interesting to see their path from they where have started and where they ended. So I think it was very interesting that you shared with us the shared with the audience the story, your story. For the people who don't know it, we are recording on Saturday, so I don't want to take off any more of your weekend. I wanna let you go rest or explore some park if the weather is nice.
Today it's a sunny
So
day in Zurich,
yeah,
and it's not
yeah.
so common.
Exactly. So, if you wanna have some final thoughts, or some final advice or some final message for the audience.
I think that I talked a lot, I think, but yeah, I would just say to you, and that was really a pleasure for me. Took part in this experience, and yeah, and yeah,
Thank you.
I hope that in some way my speech was good for people that would uh, would be landscape architect or architect.
Of
No,
course.
because
Yeah, thank you. As I said, you are always welcome to come back when you want to share more of your stories. And yeah, so for the people who are listening, if you want to get in touch with Cinzia, you will find the links in the description. And if not, just Google her and you'll find her on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And thank you for listening. Thank you again, Cinzia. And also support the podcast by subscribing, sharing, and following on the social media platforms. Thank you, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
bye.
The whole world stops just like that.